Few motorcycles get the honor of wearing an R badge, a designation reserved for the pinnacle of engineering. A statement made by Austrian creators that try throwing all of their knowledge at a project in their quest to find performance perfection. From the legendary 640 Adventure R, the mind-shifting 950 Super Enduro R, all the way to modern days. The 690 Enduro R represents the pinnacle of dual sport. The 890 Adventure R is still, after all these years, widely regarded as the king of adventure.
In fact, some of the R models didn't just conquer their categories.
Think of the 1290 Super Duke R, a bike that literally created a new niche in the market, that redefined what a hypernicket should be. These are all motorcycles that will forever be engraved in history books. Not many two-wheelers get this honorary badge. In fact, KTM's old 390 Adventure was never considered worthy of one. Now, fast forward to 2025, can the new 390 Adventure R really live up to its name? Is it a true R model? I borrowed one such example from CFMOTO, so let's find out.
Quick disclosure, this video was sponsored by Insta360 and their X5 camera, but more on that later.
On paper, it's got all the basics for wearing the lightweight adventure crown. There are some established standards that KTM adopted, like the 1821 wheel setup. And they went further by even setting new ones. 165 kilos dry weight with 272 millimeters of ground clearance is a breath of fresh air for the category. In fact, it's outright impressive. That's more clearance than the 890R itself. They covered the basics with an ABS system that can be switched to its off-road mode on the fly. Sure, through menus, but once that is done, you get a delightful system for off-roading, one that barely even intervenes. It's a motorcycle that ticks all the common sense options, with a stock high fender, adjustable levers, all features that are well appreciated in the off-road world.
I expect any new KTM to be good when taken off the beaten path. But this, I did not expect.
It's the closest an adventure bike has ever felt to riding an actual dirt machine. A chassis that really shines off-road, extremely well thought out. It's narrow, giving you tons of space to dangle your feet in a turn. There is no clunky fuel tank in the way. You get a front end that feels light, lighter than anything I've ever ridden in its class. A lightness that translates to the rest of the machine, and that makes this motorcycle handle gracefully. Look, you can partially mask a bike's weight when going up a trail with power. By sliding the rear, you force the stallion beneath you to rotate quicker. But when going down such road, the weight of a motorcycle will make its presence felt. And this is what surprised me most, because the 390's chassis felt effortless to rotate on descents.
It stopped and turned on a dime with maneuverability that's nothing short of effortless.
Now, there is a price you have to pay for it. It's not a dollar value, but a trade-off: stability. The best way I could describe it is, think of going from a 4-stroke to a 2-stroke dirt bike.
The smoker will feel lighter, more playful, but maybe not as planted. And I felt a similar way when riding the 390.
As the trail winded up the mountainside, I forgot I was riding an adventure bike. The cockpit feels tiny, very close to the rider. Some tall folks might find it uncomfortable, but for me it was never an issue. In fact, it made the bike feel more agile. Tiny, but in a good way. The narrow build is something I did not expect, but I came to appreciate very quickly. And if your background lays in dirt bikes, sitting down will feel right at home. This is a motorcycle you sit on top of, tame it similar to a dirt bike. You don't scoop in, you can move your center of gravity freely, uninterrupted. But when it comes to really attacking the terrain, standing up felt natural. Easy to grab with your knees and hold on for the ride. I have to be honest, there are motorcycles that simply make you giggle under your helmet. On these fast forest roads, the 390 was one such bike.
I'm having so much fun right now.
Probably the most fun to ride ADV I ever got a chance of trying. You rev the engine, play with its chassis, throw it around and feel like a dirt hooligan. Look, at those speeds, it might not technically be the best bike out there, but it sure is one of the most fun ones. And it all boils down to this. If the CFMOTO 450MT is a shrunk down adventure bike, the 390 is a dual sport with a windscreen slapped on the front. The core philosophy is different and the output follows suit.
Shit, is the camera okay? Yeah.
Well, if you want a camera that is smash-proof, unlike my big one here, all of the action shots you've seen in this video have been brought to you by this video sponsor, and that's Insta360 and their X5. You can get such a wide variety of shots, you can get so creative with it, and you can capture the same moment from multiple angles, which is something no other camera other than 360s can do. The big sensor can capture up to 8K or 5.7K in log format, and like right now it's getting darker, the night is coming, but even then the X5 has you covered with a night mode that will literally see in the dark. And for the first time, a 360 camera can become a proper action cam. These lenses are pretty exposed, so let's say you damage them somehow. Well, usually you would have to send in your camera and then wait for the company to replace lenses for you. But now you can buy a lens replacement kit and they will send you a spare lens and the tools you need to replace these lenses. You won't be left without a camera in the middle of nowhere. It's the battery life, which I've been using it all day and it's at like 50% still. Plus, if it ever goes down to 0, you can quick charge it to 80% in just 20 minutes. Make sure to check out the link in the description or in the pinned comment down below. And let's get back to it.
Now, a bike is nothing without its core, the soul. And it all boils down to the engine. This 399cc, 45 horsepower single loves to rev. It lives and breathes above 5000 RPM. The more aggressive you are, the more you make it scream, the more it likes it. That coupled with a smooth gearbox makes for a very decent power plant when you push it through the trails.
Sure, it vibrates a bit, more than its competitors. Stock, it sounds like it's coming out of a Dyson commercial, but I don't think these particular issues are enough to discredit it.
I realize that so far, it seems like I'm glazing the new 390. Tooting its horn, putting it on a pedestal. And some parts of it really deserve that. That chassis is a great example. It's a shame video can never truly describe the experience. But back to the original question. Is it a true R model? From a fun perspective, I would be tempted to say yes. It's close, really close. And yet,
I can't commit to that answer. At least not yet. Because there is a slight issue.
This is the 390's Achilles heel. That same engine and its mapping makes me feel like this was a rushed project, not a proper R bike. Look, as I said earlier, if pushed in the revs above 5000 RPM, this engine sings. It's great. But anything below, you twist the throttle and nothing happens. Because of that, it makes quick wheelies over obstacles harder. Power sliding the rear requires you to be in the exact correct gear, no exceptions made. Riding at low RPMs is not a fun experience as the engine feels choked, a probable side effect of modern emission standards. But look, if low torque figures in the bottom rev range were the only problem, I could get around that. I could argue that its other qualities overshadow that aspect. Ride the bike for what it is.
But the real rushed job comes into play when talking about the fueling, which honestly kinda sucked.
In stock form, the motorcycle even stalled in neutral when trying to rev its engine.
It does that from time to time. Fueling is just not quite there.
You almost have to rev it to 3000 RPM every time you set off, just in order to not cause another stall, to keep the engine alive. Remember those old carved bikes? When cold, you would pull the choke and start them up. You pushed the choke back in and had to be very careful with revving the engine until the bike reached operating temperature. You had to be gentle, otherwise the bike would die. That's how this 390 Adventure felt like. Except it did it hot or cold, no matter the conditions. And it sucks, because it also means riding low in the revs, searching for traction, is almost not an option.
I want to be fair here. I know KTM themselves are working on updates. I know there are aftermarket ECUs and solutions.
But I can only talk about the stock bike I had in front of me. I think we have to judge a product by what it is, not only by what it could be. And here's the annoying part. If KTM can issue software updates to fix these problems, that's great. But it also means they could have done that before launching it.
That's what really annoys me. If they can just push new software and still fit within emission regulations, they could have done this work beforehand. But they didn't. They rushed to market.
And I really wish they took their time with it. You don't need to search far for evidence of this. The kickstand flopping around and cutting the engine was a real issue. Sure, they have a recall for it with a stiffer spring, a really simple solution. But there is no way test riders didn't notice this beforehand. Cruise control was initially teased, which, while I don't consider necessary on these smaller bikes, would have been welcomed. Well, the one I rode didn't have it. Some say KTM will retrofit these models with updated switchgear, but again, it's like testing a website directly in production. That's my point. I don't think the kickstand or cruise are big problems in of themselves. In fact, quite the opposite.
It just feels like we got an unfinished product. Like we pulled the turkey out of the oven a few minutes too soon. Sure, we can put it back in to cook through, but that was unnecessary.
Tubeless wheels would have been a good addition, but instead we got free riding modes and throttle response settings. That's great, although in my experience, the only acceptable one is the off-road setting. The other two are literally pointless, as they react way too slow to throttle inputs. Same electronics can be set independently, like traction control, ABS, but in reality, there is kind of only one combination that felt good in my experience. It's a shame, because there is a lot to love about the new 390 Adventure R. I love how it handles, I love how it looks. Seriously, it's aggressive with a slender rear end making it look like a proper, dedicated off-road machine.
The fuel tank comes in at 14 liters, while not groundbreaking, large enough given the engine's fuel-sipping characteristics.
You do get a nice dashboard with simple menus and graphics. A system that has everything you really need. A dash that allows you to focus on the riding experience.
I really want to show you how flickable this bike actually is, so I put the X5 on my chin mount here, and I'm going to be taking you for a ride so you can see exactly what I see and feel what I feel.
If I had to describe the suspension with one word, I would call it playful. The WP setup is adjustable front and rear, with the latter sitting offset from the center line of the bike. I'm guessing this helped with achieving the ground clearance too. With 230mm of travel, it soaks up the small bumps and rocks beautifully.
Now, there is a trade-off. When hitting big bumps, you will get to feel the limitations. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't bottom out as easily as the early T7s, but you can definitely reach the end of its stroke.
Ultimately, I wouldn't call it a stable setup, but I wouldn't say it's bad either. And if money is not a concern, KTM have announced some upgraded Pro suspension components for it. Which is pretty nice, because just having that extra option available from the factory is a positive in my eyes.
I didn't mention street riding much. From my perspective, these light adventures have to be good enough, and anything over that is extra.
Wind protection is okay, although I wish that windshield was adjustable, as while riding off-road I almost hit my head on it while wheeling. The gearing is nicely spread out, with a tall 6th gear allowing you to cruise on highways at slightly lower RPMs. That's very welcome. Look, it doesn't feel as planted on the street as a 450 MT, but I'd say it's refined enough to go the distance.
The thing is, this conclusion can vary depending on your own expectations from adventure bikes.
Finally, here comes the moment many have been waiting for. The big question. Is it better than the CFMOTO? And this is actually not an easy dilemma.
Now again, if you've enjoyed these landscapes and the action shots you've seen in this video, make sure to check out the Insta360 X5 camera. Down in the description below.
The KTM feels much nimbler, yet taller at the same time. Its seat height is fair for what you get in ground clearance, but it does sit up higher, keep in mind. The suspension coped with small stuff better than a CF, but in return it lacked the Chinese bike's stability. It brakes better than the CF, but accelerating that single just doesn't feel nearly as good as the 450 twin. It simply lacks the torque and responsiveness of its counterpart.
Where I live, the KTM comes in at a €1,300 price premium. So, is it even better? It's a tough one.
If you put the engine aside, for someone who is serious about off-roading, who wants a big dual sport with wind protection, this would be an amazing option. But with the stock fueling situation, I just can't get over it. Maybe in a few months, this will change. Maybe when I get to ride an updated bike into the future, my mind will shift. But I can only talk about the present.
And so, as of now, with my own money, I'd rather pay less and get the CFMOTO, because I much prefer that engine.
Now, if KTM does end up fixing the mapping, it might sway me the other way. Look, the Austrians really built something special here. I can't praise the chassis and handling enough. It's a great base, slightly held back by its power unit.
I could only dream of a world where the CFMOTO Twin could power this platform.
I think if KTM fixes the fueling, this could become a new standard in off-road performance within its class. One with real orange blood, a true R model. One that reminds us what the Austrians stand for.